good sort of family stories about what it was like growing up and sort of the values of family and faith and education and being a lady. Is there anything
Well, I just thought I'd share these pictures with you. This is my mother's wedding party. And, this is in 1928. And this was my mother's bridal party. You notice the dresses that they're wearing.
Very clapper style.
Yeah, it really was. That was in the 20s.
Uh-huh.
And all the ladies had this low-waisted dress and long beads they wore that came all the way down to the bodice.
Uh-huh.
So they were quite long. And let's see. Oh, the headbands around. Even the headbands that the bridesmaids wore were very much like the bride.
Uh-huh.
And my daddy is the only gentleman that his friends they didn't take this picture until the day after the wedding, or the Monday after the wedding. They had to go back to work. But he's the only man in the picture because they had gone to work.
Just another example of kind of the gender roles at that time. That's really interesting. Did you want to share any of these other pictures? Or?
Well, this is just the picture of my mother as a bride, and that's a close-up. And this is my mother and father.
Who's the little girl?
That was my cousin, Cynthia. Let's see, was that Cynthia? I think that was Cynthia, because Cynthia's Sarah's father had to go to work that day. They took the pictures.
Oh, okay.
But all of them were cousins to my mother. And let's see. This is a very old picture. This is, let's see, it's not dated, but I think this was when I graduated from college, like junior high school. This was school 17, IPS 17.
And I don't know if you can see on there, but it looks like the picture is on kind of a cardboard board type thing.
Yeah, almost matted.
Yeah.
Matted.
That's better term.
Let's see. Yeah. But that's the same back of the school that when I graduated from junior high, it was behind this same school. On
cool.
The steps like this.
Do you have a picture of yourself like that too?
I don't.
Somewhere? Or did they take a picture of you guys graduating?
Yeah, they took a picture of us. In fact, Uncle Sonny has one.
Uh-huh.
And I have one, but I don't know where mine is.
Yeah.
But you can see how the edges have all broken away. This was back in let's see, my mother married in 28. And so this would have had to have been the shoot that I used in 20. 4 years in high school, 2 years.
Mhm.
So 4 years from Manual High School. And I can't even think of the years. I can't even add today. In 1918, when she graduated from high school.
Gotcha.
So this was 4 years before that. IPS, and so that's why I'm a great believer in IPS.
Yeah.
People talk about it today because the children in the homes are not really coming up to the plate as most people did for their families in those days. They were concerned about children succeeding.
Yeah.
Whether they had education or not, they sought to see that their children did.
Mm-hmm.
And the children would obey the teachers. The teacher's word was gospel.
Mm-hmm.
Obey. I mean, the parents even thought, well, if the teacher said it, it was right, and you probably did it. Okay, stand with the teachers, but today parents think that my children didn't do that. And I know my children. We all know that parents don't really know their children because they sometimes have a different behavior in the classroom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the stories, Henrietta Lacks, it tells kind of how the family, today they kind of just really been taken advantage of because they are really uneducated. How does, um, how can we kind of get back to valuing education and teaching that's important?
I think it has to be discussed and expected.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Parents expected children to graduate from high school, although sometimes if they didn't themselves, but they were going to try to instill the principle and the need for education to their youngsters,
Mm-hmm.
although they did not have it. And another thing, I think the time that families spend together is important. Now, we didn't have money enough to go to a lot of paid affairs, but we had games at home. So we would sit around the table, and my mother might be sewing, but we would be playing all kinds of games, after we would do our homework, or if it was on the weekend, we had things to do at home. Sometimes it was just when my father would be at home some evening, and he would cut the hedges and mow the grass. My brothers had to collect up the trimmings in baskets while the girls sat on the porch and uh, played rock games or marbles or something.
Yeah.
And we just had fun doing those kinds of things at home. And at dinner time, this is something I should mention, we always ate dinner together.
Our
Always.
family did too.
Always. And sometimes my papa would get real concerned, and my brother would be so far away from home he couldn't hear the call. And sometimes Daddy would say, "You don't get to have dinner tonight, Sonny." Because
Oh, Uncle Sonny. That's
But
funny.
and we would feel so sorry for Sonny. when dinner was all over, we'd clear the table. We'd put something over to the side. We'd
That's
sneak
so
some
funny.
things for Sonny. So he
I
could
always
have something
forgot
to
that
eat.
I always forget in my mind that Uncle Sonny, like you and Uncle Sonny grew up like brother and sister, like you did brother and sister things.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. We would feel so bad for him. I mean, we were ready to cry for him. We would
Why
just
wouldn't he get dinner?
because he'd gone so far from home. He couldn't
Oh.
hear his mother call him.
Oh.
And so he would come in late, and we'd be sitting at the table already. And Daddy would say he couldn't have dinner because he didn't hear the call. But we had to be kind of help him out a little bit. We were always trying to help him out. I remember one time with his neighborhood friends, Daddy was working nights, but he had promised his friends, we had a large backyard, he had promised his friends that they had a party in the backyard. And he knew what time Daddy came home, and his friends knew what time Mr. Ellis came home. So they had their party. They put up lights in the backyard and had music, but they all cleared away. They knew to go because Mr. Ellis was going home. They all knew Mr. Ellis was stern, and Sonny would be in trouble if his daddy came home from him at a party in the yard, so I got time there for Dad to be home. Those kids got the yard cleaned up and left there. I don't know whether Daddy ever knew that party went on. We never talked about it. No one ever talked about it. My mother didn't even talk about it.
That's really funny.
So, and we just got all back to normal and quiet. I was ready to go to bed when Daddy came home. That was so funny.
That is funny. Do you have any last words of advice or wisdom or things that you think are important for you to pass down?
Well, I think parents and children doing things together is really important.
Mhm.
I can say that I wish there were things that my father would have done with us. My mother was always there, but and we accepted his reasoning that it was important for him to work and furnish for us. But I think being together and doing fun things, family things, were just as important as the working. And I know we could not have lived without the income of him working,
Mhm.
but it would have been nice to have shared some of his time with us as a family. We knew he was there. He was always there, and he was working. But part of life for your children, because they are children, is to do things that they would enjoy.
Mhm.
So that's about it. My mother was always there. She made things for us, and we went to church with her, and anything else we did was always with mother. And next to my mother, I'll just show you these pictures. You won't know who these people are. But this lady, his name was Hilda Reader,
Mhm.
and
Is that
we
who you're
call
named after?
yes. Um, well, she and her niece. This is Hilda Reader, and this was Helga Mitchell.
Mhm.
This was her sister's daughter,
Okay.
and her mother died in childbirth, and she raised her from a baby.
Mhm.
And she lived in an apartment above my parents' home, and lived with my grandmother. And we didn't really know the relationship, and she was most of us had her as a first grade teacher in our elementary school, except my brother John. He started at mid-year in January, and he didn't get to